Chosen one, stop what you are doing. Put down your phone, pause your day, and do not let your attention drift away from this moment. I am stepping into your timeline today to interrupt the relentless rhythm of your exhaustion. You have been running on a treadmill that someone else plugged in, chasing a finish line that keeps moving, and I need you to hear my voice before you burn out completely. You are carrying a heavy, hollow ache in your chest, a quiet desperation that you hide behind a forced smile and an endlessly busy schedule. You look around at the life you have built and wonder in your quietest moments why it feels so incredibly heavy. I am here to tell you exactly why. You have been sold a beautifully packaged lie called the American dream, and you have mistaken it for your divine purpose. You were taught from a young age that success means climbing the corporate ladder, securing an impressive job title, maxing out the retirement account, and acquiring a house filled with things you do not even have the energy to enjoy. You did what society demanded, or you are currently running yourself into the ground trying to get there. Yet your spirit remains completely starved. I did not breathe galaxies into existence and meticulously design your DNA just so you could spend your one precious earthly life simply managing stress, answering emails, and waiting for the weekend. The world has convinced you that your occupation is your identity. But your occupation is merely what pays your bills. Your calling is what pays your soul. I see your daily reality, and I am not ignoring the heavy practical burdens you carry. I know the rent is due. I see the rising cost of living, and I know the crushing weight of debt that sometimes keeps you awake in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling. I am not telling you that working is wrong, or that you should recklessly abandon your responsibilities to your family tomorrow. Providing is honorable, and hard work is a necessary part of the human experience. But you must urgently break the emotional trauma bond you have formed with your career. Your job is not your master, and it is certainly not the ultimate reason you were created. It is simply a vehicle. It is a temporary training ground, and a financial engine designed to fund the true assignment I have placed on your life. When you walk into that office or log onto your computer on a mundane Tuesday morning, you are no longer allowed to view that space as a prison or a measure of your worth. You are an ambassador of heaven, stationed temporarily in a worldly system. You are there to learn discipline, to master new skills, to build resilience, and to gather the resources required for the real mission I am preparing you for. The moment you consciously detach your self-worth from your paycheck and your job title, the illusion shatters. The suffocating anxiety loses its grip on your throat. You are finally free to work with excellence without worshiping the outcome, knowing with absolute certainty that your true validation comes from me, not from a promotion, a demanding boss, or a soaring bank balance. You are destined for a life of profound impact, and it begins the second you realize you are no longer a slave to their system. Listen to me very carefully, because the next chain I need to break off your mind is the most insidious one of all. You have unknowingly become addicted to a drug that is completely invisible, and it is called the validation of other people. I watch you twist yourself into knots, abandoning your own boundaries and silencing your own convictions, just to make sure you are palatable to a crowd that does not truly know you. Let us speak honestly about the psychology of your people-pleasing. You were biologically wired for connection, designed by me to thrive in a community. But the world has weaponized that beautiful design. Society and the glowing screens you stare at for hours have trained you to measure your inherent value by the metrics of a shallow world. You count digital likes as if they were currency for your soul. You exhaust yourself trying to earn the delayed approval of a parent who may never understand you. Or you silently compete with the curated highlight reels of your peers. You are living on a stage, performing a script you did not write, terrified of being judged, misunderstood, or left behind by people who are just as lost as you are. But I need you to understand the grave spiritual danger of living this way. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot desperately chase the applause of the crowd while simultaneously holding on to the calling I have placed on your life. Because the world's scorecard and my scorecard are fundamentally opposed. The world rewards conformity, loud arrogance, and the relentless accumulation of superficial status. I reward quiet faithfulness, radical obedience, and a surrendered heart. Every time you shrink yourself to fit into their boxes, every time you compromise your integrity just to keep the peace in a toxic room, you are actively deafening your spirit to my voice. If you are constantly looking left and right to see if the world is clapping for you, you will never be able to look straight ahead to see where I am leading you. It is time to completely break this validation addiction, and it starts with a radical shift in your mental framework. You must deliberately choose to detach your self-worth from external milestones and root it entirely in my divine intention. The next time you feel that familiar spike of anxiety, that desperate urge to explain yourself or prove your value to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, I want you to stop and breathe. Must remind yourself that you do not need to audition for a part in a play when you have already been chosen by the creator of the universe. You do not need their validation because your existence is already validated by my design. When you truly anchor your identity in the fact that you are my masterpiece, called and equipped before the foundation of the earth, the opinions of temporary people completely lose their power over you. You become untouchable by their criticism and unswayed by their flattery. You are finally free to walk boldly in the specific, unique purpose I have mapped out for you, moving forward with the unshakable confidence that comes from playing only for an audience of one. I need to speak to you about the heavy, echoing loneliness that has been keeping you up at night. You have noticed a drastic shift inside of your spirit recently, haven't you? There is a sudden, almost physical intolerance for the spaces, the habits, and the conversations you used to navigate with absolute ease. You sit in rooms filled with people you have known for years, yet you feel entirely alien. The small talk drains your energy, the gossip repulses your soul, and the act of pretending to be interested in surface-level pursuits feels like you are suffocating. You have been silently wondering if there is something deeply wrong with you, if you are becoming bitter, antisocial, or depressed. You are not. You are entering what I call the incubation phase. I am actively recalibrating your spiritual frequency. And naturally, the people who are still broadcasting on your old frequency can no longer reach you. I am pulling you away from the noise because I cannot whisper the profound secrets of your future into an environment filled with the deafening distractions of your past. But I know exactly how much this hurts, and I will never minimize your pain. The world tries to package personal growth as a glamorous journey of constant elevation. But I know the truth. This transition is a profound season of mourning. It is agonizing to outgrow people you deeply love. It shatters your heart to slowly realize that the childhood friend, the familiar family member, or even the romantic partner you thought would walk beside you forever, simply cannot come with you into this next chapter because their spirit refuses to grow with yours. You are actively grieving the death of shared histories, the loss of inside jokes, and the sudden absence of the comfort of the familiar. I see the quiet tears you cry when you realize you are walking this new path alone, questioning if the cost of alignment is simply too high. I want you to know that your grief is entirely valid and deeply understood. You are allowed to mourn the beautiful connections that simply could not survive the fire of your awakening. Yet, in the midst of this painful separation, I must issue a critical warning about a psychological trap that has been laid specifically for you. As your discernment sharpens and your tolerance for dysfunction evaporates, you will be strongly tempted to let your pain curdle into pride. You will be tempted to look down from your new vantage point and judge those who are still asleep, dismissing them all as toxic, shallow, or lesser than you. Do not let your hard-won spiritual maturity rot into spiritual arrogance. Just because I have mercifully opened your eyes does not mean you are inherently better than those who are still wandering in the dark. It simply means you have been given a different assignment for this specific season. You must learn the delicate art of setting ironclad boundaries with absolute, unwavering grace. You can absolutely refuse to participate in their dysfunction while still holding them in your heart with deep, unconditional love. You can walk away from a toxic table without needing to flip it over on your way out. Let this temporary season of isolation be a sacred cocoon rather than a cold fortress of superiority. I am hiding you in the private shadows for a brief moment, not to punish you with loneliness, miss, but to fiercely protect your fragile new growth from the harsh elements of a world that does not yet understand the magnificent calling I am building within you. I need you to look back at the devastation of the past few years, the moments that nearly broke you in half, and let me completely change the way you view your scars. You have endured seasons of intense suffering, betrayals that came from the hands of people you trusted implicitly, and failures that made you question if I had forgotten your name. I know the nights you spent staring at the wall in the dark, wondering why a loving creator would allow your carefully constructed life to completely crumble. But I tell you now, with absolute certainty, those moments were never punishments. They were the crucible. You are not a victim of circumstance. Aburka, you are a masterpiece being meticulously forged in the fire of divine preparation. Consider the modern reality you have been forced to navigate. You may have poured your entire soul, your life savings, and your sleepless nights into a business venture that ultimately collapsed, leaving you to face overwhelming debt and the quiet judgment of your peers. Perhaps you gave the deepest, most vulnerable parts of your heart to a marriage or a long-term relationship, only to be met with deceit and an agonizing separation that left you questioning your fundamental worth. Or maybe you diligently sacrificed your health and boundaries for a corporate career, doing everything right by the world's standards, only to hit a devastating dead end and face a cold, unexpected layoff. In the eyes of society, those are absolute tragedies and permanent marks of failure. But in my kingdom, those ruins are the exact raw materials I used to build an unshakable foundation. I had to let the fragile, misaligned structures of your life fall apart so that you could finally discover that I am your only true source of security. Your pain was not an accident, and it will not be wasted. I also know that right now you are standing in the incredibly uncomfortable space between the collapse of your past and the manifestation of your future. You are waiting for the next door to open, and the silence of this hallway is deeply agonizing. But you must understand that my delays are never my denials. They are your ultimate protection. I am holding back the next level of your life, because if I gave it to you right now, the unhealed version of you would sabotage it. The greatest mistake you can make in this transitional season is to fall into the paralyzing trap of passive waiting. Passive waiting is sitting in the ashes of your disappointment, wallowing in the comfort of victimhood, numbing your anxiety with endless digital scrolling. and demanding that I magically rescue a life you are refusing to actively participate in. I am calling you out of that paralysis and into the mastery of active waiting. Active waiting is the fierce, intentional daily decision to prepare your mind, body, and spirit for the monumental blessing that is already on its way to your timeline. It means doing the grueling, unglamorous work of healing your psychological trauma so you do not bleed on the people who are destined to love you in your next chapter. It means stewarding the physical body I gave you, getting out of bed, and moving with discipline even when your emotions feel hollow. It means refining your professional and spiritual skills in the quiet, studying, reading, and mastering your craft while the audience is completely empty. It means finding the profound strength to look outside of your own circumstances and serve someone else whose world is falling apart. Pouring out compassion even while your own heart is still mending. When you choose to actively participate in your own restoration, you signal to heaven that you possess the spiritual maturity to handle the massive, world-changing weight of the calling I am about to release over your life. I tell you to listen to me, to make decisions based on my guidance, and to walk in alignment with my will. But I also know the silent, agonizing frustration screaming in your mind right now. Dr. Wenner, you are asking the most desperate question of all. How do you actually know it is my voice? You are paralyzed by the fear that the thoughts in your head are nothing more than your own ego, your unhealed anxiety, or the deceptive whispers of an enemy who wants you completely derailed. You have been pleading for a burning bush, a booming voice from the sky, or an undeniable sign written in the clouds, and instead, you are met with what feels like a deafening silence. But I am not silent. You are simply listening for the wrong frequency. You must understand the ultimate metric of my presence, which is the undeniable test of peace. My voice does not operate in the frantic, suffocating urgency of chaos. When your ego or your fear is driving you, there is a crushing pressure, a desperate rush to make a move, to prove yourself, also to violently control the outcome before everything falls apart. But when I am leading you, even if the directive I give you is completely terrifying to your logical mind, even if I am telling you to walk away from a lucrative career, to end a comfortable but misaligned relationship, or to step into the complete unknown with no safety net, my instruction will always be accompanied by a profound, anchoring peace that defies all human understanding. It is a quiet, steady knowing in the deepest center of your chest that remains completely still, even while the circumstances around you are raging. If the thought drives you into a relentless panic, it is not me. But if the thought requires massive courage yet inexplicably settles your soul, you have found my fingerprint. Yet, you will never be able to recognize that subtle peace if you refuse to turn down the deafening volume of the world around you. You cannot hear a delicate whisper in the middle of a hurricane, and you have allowed your daily life to become an absolute hurricane of constant, overwhelming stimulation. You live in a culture that is utterly terrified of silence. You wake up and immediately flood your mind with endless digital scrolling, the chaotic news cycle, and the loud opinions of strangers. You fill every empty space of your day with music, videos, and podcasts, desperately numbing the quiet moments, because the quiet is where you finally have to face the reality of your own emptiness. If you truly want the missing key to discernment, you must fiercely protect your spiritual environment and deliberately engineer spaces of total silence. I am asking you to turn off the radio and the podcast during your morning commute and allow the raw silence to ride in the passenger seat with you. I am asking you to intentionally fast from the artificial dopamine of social media for 24 uninterrupted hours, breaking the cultural addiction to constant consumption. I need you to carve out literal, undisturbed quiet time in your home, sitting in an empty room with nothing but your breath, your unfiltered honesty, and my presence. When you systematically strip away the relentless noise of the modern hustle, your spiritual frequency will finally clear, and you will miraculously realize that I have been speaking directly to you this entire time, waiting patiently for you to simply be quiet enough to listen. You have spent enough time drowning in abstract theology and waiting for a grand, cinematic destiny to magically unfold. But true purpose is never a distant destination you suddenly arrive at one day. It is a grueling, beautiful, daily posture, and it requires a concrete blueprint to anchor your spiritual awakening into the heavy reality of your physical life. I am moving you from the realm of passive inspiration into the trenches of daily application by establishing 3 unshakable pillars that must dictate your every waking moment. The first pillar is communion, which demands the absolute first fruits of your day. In the modern American hustle, your deepest reflex is to wake up, blindly reach for your glowing phone, and instantly surrender your fragile morning peace to a barrage of stressful emails, curated social media feeds, and the chaotic demands of a world that wants to consume you. You must violently break this cycle. I am instructing you to give the first 15 minutes of your morning entirely to me, before a single human voice, digital notification, or terrifying news headline enters your mind. Before your feet even touch the floor, before the anxiety of your daily commute sets in, you must anchor your spirit in my presence, actively trading your morning panic for divine alignment. The second pillar is the relentless execution of character in the fiercely ordinary, unglamorous moments of your life. You have been waiting for a massive stage and a microphone to prove your worth. But your profound assignment is happening right now in the shadows where no one is clapping. Purpose is choosing to walk away from the toxic gossip at the corporate water cooler when it would be so much easier to join in and bond over someone else's destruction. It is looking the exhausted, unseen waitress in the eye at a crowded diner and leaving a generous tip that completely disrupts her narrative of despair. It is maintaining absolute, unflinching integrity in your business dealings, when cutting a quiet corner would guarantee a faster profit, and nobody would ever find out. True spiritual authority is not built in the spotlight of public recognition. It is meticulously forged in the silent discipline of doing the right thing when you have absolutely nothing to gain from it. The third and most difficult pillar is unconditional contribution, which is the agonizing mandate to love the completely unlovable. You're going to walk into bitterly cold environments, intensely toxic office spaces, and fractured family gatherings, and your human instinct will be to match their dark energy just to protect yourself. But as a chosen one, you are no longer allowed to act as a fragile thermometer that simply reflects the temperature of the room. You are a thermostat. You are called to shift the atmosphere. When a passive-aggressive coworker tries to diminish you, or a deeply wounded family member lashes out in their own unhealed pain, you must respond with a baffling, radical grace that completely short-circuits their hostility. You do not absorb their darkness. You blind them with my light. When you faithfully execute these 3 pillars every single day, communion, character, and contribution, you stop frantically searching for your purpose because you are finally breathing it into existence. I have kept you in the quiet, painful shadows of the incubation phase for a necessary season. But you were never meant to build a permanent fortress out of your isolation. It is time for you to finally step out of hiding and walk boldly into the light. You have spent so many tearful nights mourning the profound loss of your old, misaligned circle. But you have not yet realized that the painful emptying of your life was simply making room for the tribe I have specifically assigned to your next chapter. There are people currently walking this earth who carry the exact same heavenly scorecard in their hearts that you do. These are the friends, mentors, and destiny helpers who will never roll their eyes at your boundaries, Akasu who will never be intimidated by your spiritual growth, and who will fiercely protect your peace when you are too exhausted to defend it yourself. But you will never find them if you remain locked inside your own self-protection. You cannot attract an aligned community if you are still wearing the heavy, suffocating mask of who you used to be. You must have the courage to show up authentically in the world, allowing the brilliant light of your new purpose to act as a lighthouse. When you stop apologizing for your transformation, your true frequency will effortlessly pierce the fog of the modern world and magnetically draw in the exact people who have been praying for someone just like you. Yet, even as I speak these promises over your life, I can hear the final, desperate objections rising up in the darkest corners of your mind. You are looking at the calendar, agonizing over the years that have passed, and a heavy, familiar voice of shame is lying to you, insisting that it is simply too late. You are silently arguing with me, claiming that you are too old, that your resume is too fractured, that you have made far too many catastrophic mistakes, or that you are currently buried under so much suffocating financial debt that your divine window of opportunity has permanently closed. Listen to me very closely. I am the sovereign creator of time itself, and I specialize in the miraculous redemption of entirely broken materials. I have never needed a perfect, unblemished past to execute a flawless, world-changing assignment through you. The years you were convinced you completely wasted, the decades you spent wandering blindly down the wrong path, and the absolute mess you made of your own plans are the exact raw materials I am about to repurpose into your most powerful testimony. Your past failures do not disqualify you. They are the undeniable proof of my restorative grace. You are not a single second behind schedule. You are standing exactly on the precipice of my perfect, calculated timing. So I am drawing a definitive line in the sand for you today, and you have to make a choice. You have heard my voice. You have felt the undeniable, physical shift in your chest. And now you must make a tangible move to anchor this spiritual awakening into your physical reality. I refuse to let you simply consume this message. Feel a temporary rush of motivation, and then immediately swipe away to numb your mind with the next meaningless digital distraction. If you are finally ready to stop wandering in the wilderness and start walking in absolute, unshakable alignment, I have provided a practical next step for you to take right now. Go to the description below and download the free 7-day alignment guide I have intentionally orchestrated for you to find today. Use it to build the daily pillars we have discussed and permanently sever the heavy chains of your old life. As you step forward into this new era, I bless you with a radical, relentless courage that absolutely terrifies your lingering doubts. I command the heavy fog of your anxiety to completely lift from your mind right now. May you walk out your front door tomorrow morning carrying a peace so profound, a resilience so deep, and a light so blinding that the world has absolutely no choice but to recognize my undeniable signature upon your life.